If you've been a photographer for a while, you've probably built up a fairly large library of images that you've shot over the years. And in this video, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you might want to go back and reprocess a number of those images. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you a bonus reason which is completely different from the others, but nevertheless quite a useful thing to think about. It doesn't matter what you use for processing your image, it makes little difference as far as these reasons are concerned. I'm going to be using Lightroom, and sometimes I use Photoshop as well, but it doesn't matter if you're using something different, the reasons still apply, and I think you can get some benefit from thinking about each one of them. So in order to get started and give you some illustrations about why these 5 reasons are a good thing to think about, let's get into Lightroom. The first reason that you might want to reprocess some of your images is that there may be new features in the editing application or the processing application that you use. And I'm a Lightroom user, and there have been lots of new features in Lightroom over the last few years. And the first of these that I want to take a look at is masking. I have here a photograph that was taken when I was out shooting the Christmas lights in London of my partner in crime, Hannah Young. She also has a YouTube channel, which I will link above if you want to take a look at some of the images that she creates. But in the meantime, you'll see that when I shot this, it was at night and it was in London. There were lots of lights around, but there was no light on Hannah's face. So I masked her image, put some light onto it in Lightroom using masking. Now, I should say that in this video, I'm not going to explain how to do all of these things, but the purpose of this video is just to give you the ideas of things that you might want to do yourself. So let's look at another similar image, and you can see that the background here is a bit bright. The people standing in front of it, whose picture I'm taking, are in shadow at the front, and it's not a great image. But it's not a very difficult thing to mask those people and bring up the exposure for them, and maybe add a little bit of contrast into the background as well, which just creates a much better image. So there's 2 simple examples of masking. Let's have a look at a couple of others. Here is an image that I shot in New York over the Christmas period, just of some locks that are on a strut of the Brooklyn Bridge, and it looks pretty boring. It's hard to tell what's what in the image, and the big triangular area of that girder at the bottom is a complete distraction from the image. By just doing a bit of masking, I can bring down the exposure of that area, and I can also highlight the area that we want to draw attention to, which is this area here with all of the locks. You can see that I've toned down the other aspects of the image, and I've added a little bit of clarity into this area in order to just bring out the fact that that was the aspect of the image that I wanted to draw attention to. And similarly, in this image, this is an image of Radio City Music Hall in New York, shot again over Christmas time, and I wanted to get this blurred taxi going past along the bottom, because that part of the image was not particularly attractive. So I shot this, but it looks incredibly dull. So with the use of a mask, I was able to increase the color of this and just make it look as if it's something that I intentionally wanted to do, rather than something that was a mistake when I was shooting this photograph. So that's the first thing that we wanted to look at in terms of new features, which was masking. Another new feature in Lightroom is the ability to remove objects out of an image by the use of generative AI. And you can see in this image that there's some litter on the ground, and that just takes away a little bit from it. So just by using the generative remove tool, I was able to remove that out of it and process the image, and then that distraction isn't there to take your eye away from the image as I want to present it. So here's another image that I shot in the little village of Lacock in southern England, and I don't like the road signs that are here and the cone, because that just is not in keeping with the character of this old village that looks like it's from a time gone by. And so using generative remove, I was able just simply to take those out just as if they weren't there, and process the rest of the image the way that I wanted to see it. It's also worth noting I did a little bit of masking on this area just to increase the contrast of it and make it look as if it's more similar to the other parts of the building. Now, I don't know what your view of this kind of thing is. Some people don't like altering images in this way. Personally, I view photography as art. I'm not trying to document a piece of history here or document a particular scene for any other purpose than the fact that I'm just creating something that is a pleasing piece of art. So I find it absolutely fine to make those kind of edits to an image. Your view may differ. If so, drop me a comment and let me know why you think the way that you do. Another great feature that's been added to Lightroom in the last few years is the AI denoise feature that uses AI in order to reduce noise in your image, and it is much more effective than any previous method that was available within Lightroom. I shot this image in New York at night, and you can see that there is quite a bit of noise in it. If I just zoom in, you can see there is a lot of noise there. We could click on the denoise to do that, but I'm not going to wait while that happens. I'll just switch to the image that already has been processed, and you can see immediately that there's very much less noise. If we zoom into it, the sky is absolutely fine, and that just creates a better image. So it may be you're able to improve some of your older images if you don't like the amount of noise that there is in the image. Another great feature that's been added to Lightroom in the last couple of years is that of lens blur that you can see in the panel at the right hand side here. And this image, if I just look at the before rather than after it's been applied, it's a very cluttered image, and these people that are over on the left hand side are definitely a distraction, as is the person working in the kitchen in the background. So by applying lens blur to this image, you can see that it reduces the distraction that they cause. The interesting thing about lens blur is that it creates a depth map. And you can see that this area here, which is closer to the camera, is not blurred as much as the background, which is blurred very much more. So you can see that this creates a much more focused and more interesting image than the one that was looking a little bit cluttered and detailed. The next reason that you might want to reprocess some of your images is the other side of the coin from the last one. The last one was all about new features or capabilities in your editing software, and this is new capabilities that you yourself have learned, new techniques that you've learned since you last processed these photographs. So that might be as simple a thing as having a better eye for composition and being able to crop your images better than they were before. Now, I'm not going to go into all the different techniques that you might have learned. Everybody watches a lot of YouTube videos. Hopefully you've watched a few of these and you've not just watched them, but you've learned to apply those techniques yourself. And it can be a great exercise to go back and apply some of those things that you've learned to your older images. The third reason you might want to go back and reprocess some of your images is that you might want to try out changing them to black and white or to grayscale. Sometimes we fail to spot images that would work really well, that have nice textures. So here's one that I reprocessed and made it very contrasty, reduced everything except the highlights on it. Or here's another image that originally just wasn't awfully attractive, but certainly looks a lot nicer when it's in grayscale. Here's a staircase image that didn't have a very nice color to it, but it looks great in grayscale. And finally, here is an autumn-winter image taken in this kind of snowy landscape and converting it, increasing the contrast a bit and converting it to black and white, worked out really well and created a nice, pleasing composition. Thinking about black and white, thinking about grayscale might be interesting for some of the images that you've perhaps never thought about this before. Next area that I want to look at is all about your style or your preferences and how that changes over time. So not only do you learn new techniques, but what you like and what's pleasing to you in an image may change over time. Now, this is an old image that I had processed many, many years ago. And at the time, I kind of liked this HDR-y sort of look, which I like less at the moment. And so I reprocessed this image. And here's the reprocessed version of it. It is cropped a little bit differently, but you can see that it's a softer image. If I press the backslash key to show the original image, you can see that I've done a fair bit of processing on it, but nevertheless it is a softer style than the one that I used to use. And so it could be nice to go back and look at some of the images that you'd processed and see whether you could reprocess them in a style that is more pleasing to you as to where you're currently at with the art of your photography. Final benefit that I want to mention of going back over your older photographs, here are some of the ones that we've looked at in this video, is that you will gain fresh insight into your photography as you reprocess these older photographs, and that will in turn inform the photographic work that you do when you're taking new images. So you may be thinking more about some of the techniques that you've applied, some of the things that have worked, and you might take then images that are adapted to the use of those techniques and the use of those styles and the way in which your photography has developed. So that final benefit then is all about what you learn as you're going back to process your older images. And the bonus reason why you should go back and look over your existing catalogue is that you may want to weed out a lot of the images that are just not worth keeping. You have a look at them, you decide that there isn't any potential for reprocessing them, and so you should delete them. And the benefit of that is not only about saving some space, but it also trims down your catalogue. Sometimes it's hard to see the wood for the trees because there are just too many images to go through, and it's worth just weeding out the ones that aren't worth keeping. And sometimes I also, because Lightroom can do so many more things than it could do before, sometimes I delete the images that I have edited in Photoshop and apply similar edits in a non-destructive way in Lightroom. This creates a smaller file, and it also creates one that's easier to go back and make adjustments to in the future. So curating your image catalog is a really beneficial thing to do, and it supports all of the other first 5 reasons why you might want to go back and process your images, because you will find images that are just real gems and you can apply some of your new style and your new techniques to them and get some more pleasure out of the work that you've done with your camera. So I hope you found that interesting. I'd love to hear from you in the comments as to whether you ever go back and process old images, what you've found when you've gone back and done that, and do you feel that too much processing of images is not beneficial for the art of photography, or do you see it as a process of creating an image using the techniques that are available to you through applications like Photoshop and Lightroom? So thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.